Hey everyone, it's Blake, and welcome in to episode number 16 of our WWE 2021 save in TEW 2020. This is the July Week 2 edition of Raw, and as always, if you're just starting off with this video, go back, check out the first 15. We've had a lot going on thus far in our save here, both on Raw and on SmackDown. And as I said in the previous episode, if you don't have a chance to go back and start from the beginning, although I promise you it'll be a pretty fun journey if you do, start at King of the Ring. That's a good place to start, and that'll give you a pretty good idea of where we're headed now towards Great American Bash and then into SummerSlam. But we will jump right into Raw, and we will start here with the pre-show, which is Robert Roode getting a win in 5 minutes over Mansoor. Gets a 38, as we've seen with all of our pre-show matches. This is basically just the time for us to be able to build up wins, some momentum for some of the people that have had a lot of losses thus far in our save. And unfortunately for our friend Robert Roode, he has been one of them. So we get him a win here against Mansoor and just give him a little bit of momentum, even though we'll see what that leads to for him. But Mansoor has not done a whole lot in our save thus far. But Robert Roode, he gets a win to get back on the right track. And in our other pre-show match, this one goes a lot better. A 59 for this one, as it is John Morrison getting the win over Akira Tozawa. We've seen already, if you're a long-time watcher of the videos, if you've been through this entire series, you know that our man Akira Tozawa here, he has really put together some good matches, and he has great chemistry with Bobby Lashley. And now has a nice little match here with John Morrison. So maybe we need to start pushing Akira Tozawa, put him in some different spots because he pretty much works well with anyone from what we've seen thus far. So nonetheless, he can't get the win here as it is John Morrison. So like Robert Roode, I think Morrison's kind of in that same spot where The Miz is out with the injury and he's out for a while. So we can't really, we can't use them as a pairing because Miz is out injured. And so Morrison's kind of just been slotted thus far, just sort of in one of those spots where we just haven't had a whole lot going on for him. That will change soon, but for now, we just give him a pre-show win here against Akira Tozawa. And that will lead into the main edition here of Raw. And as you know, if you've watched the series, I really like to start the show off with something big. And I think, a big sort of storyline development. I like to have a good start and a good finish. And I think we're going to have both of that here on Raw. But we're going to go to the start, which will be Kevin Owens coming out. And a great rating here, an 88. And as I told you on the previous couple episodes, I was finally going to get around to using the angle writer. And sure enough, I did here. So we will pretty much try to use that moving forward in all of our videos to actually write this out as well. Because I just think it makes it easier probably to keep up with. If you're someone, rather than me just saying everything word for word, you can get the gist of it right here in the angle description. And so I'm going to try to use the angle writer pretty much on everything moving forward, on any angles that I have. So I think that'll make it a lot more fun. But Kevin Owens just survived the last man standing match against Sheamus. He's our new United States champion. And now that he is, you see it here, he is going to be starting the U.S. title open challenge. I know that's something that we've seen before with the U.S. title. Always liked it. And so I just wanted to bring it back here with Kevin Owens because I think it gives you a lot of possibilities, gives you a lot of things you can do storyline-wise. So I wanted to bring that back, and clearly it works here because it gets off to an 88. A really good rating here, probably one of the best we've had thus far with Kevin Owens. And it continues to advance the storyline, which changed from Kevin Owens' quest to the gold. Now it's Kevin Owens' U.S. title open challenge, and we will now see who is going to answer the first challenge because Kevin Owens, he just went through a last man standing match, but as you see here, he's ready. Like, it starts now. He is going to defend his championship. He's going to be a fighting champion, and we will see who accepts his challenge. We're not going to do that. And it is Dolph Ziggler stepping up. Gets a 71 here overall. Good improvisation from Dolph. And Dolph Ziggler, tired of being made a fool of after all his accomplishments in WWE. And he thinks there's no one better than him. So he's going to take the United States title just to prove that he is the best. So it is Dolph Ziggler in our first Kevin Owens U.S. title open challenge. He is stepping up to the plate, and let's see how it unfolds for Dolph Ziggler. And in a really good match here, 75, we will certainly take that. But you've got two veterans here who are just, are pretty fantastic in their own right. And they go almost 15 minutes, and it is Kevin Owens getting the win in a pop-up powerbomb. So he makes his first defense of the United States title, but just a really good match rating here. This is kind of what I was hoping for, having Ziggler as the first one to sort of be the person, in that spot to answer the open challenge. I just thought I wanted a really good match right off the bat because, again, this is something where we can use this for as long as we want to use it when it comes to this open challenge situation. And so I didn't want to rush into anything right away to build some, just a long story arc or anything right off the bat. But eventually we'll get there. But I just wanted to kind of see what we can have from a match quality standpoint because I think that's going to give us good matches on our shows, like on Raw and on the pay-per-views, as long as Kevin Owens is the champion. So I think either way, this is kind of a fun little thing to do. So it's already paying off here with a nice 75 with that. So Kevin Owens just became champion last week. He's already fighting again. And even if he wasn't at 100%, just gets a really nice win here. And I think on this, we did have this scripted, and we wanted them to go all out for a great bout. So we did pick all-out match. And these two delivered. They're skilled enough to do so. So that worked out really well. So a nice start to our U.S. title open challenge. And that leads us into an appearance from the Usos, which is their first appearance on Raw here in our series because they became the undisputed tag team champions. And so now they are on Raw making their first appearance here. And they have decided that even though I'm misspelling. I don't like spelling things wrong. That's maybe I should go back and re-record this entire thing. I'm just kidding. But you guys can call me out on my spelling here of defense. But their championship, they will defend their title at Great American Bash, which we'll find out on SmackDown who it's going to be against because it will be the New Day taking on the Viking Raiders. The winner takes on the Usos at Great American Bash. But because they are the floating champions, they want the Raw roster to also be ready. And more specifically, they want the Street Profits to get ready. And as you see, we got in a little line here from Jey Uso saying that the Usos are the ones that want the smoke. And, of course, this comes off the heels of the Usos getting the win over New Day and the Street Profits at King of the Ring in our triple threat undisputed tag team title match. So the Usos are here basically just sending a message to the Raw roster. Let them know they will be ready after their championship match that they have at the Great American Bash when they have their defense, not defense, because I spelled it wrong. So there you go. 64 overall. We'll take that from the Usos here as they send a message to the Raw Tag Team Division. Speaking of which, the Street Profits are in action next, and they get a win over Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin. Goes about 12 minutes here, 57 overall. Gable off his game, not ideal, but we do get the Tag Team Specialist bonus for both these two teams. Really, in terms of performances, they're just pretty much all together. But since Gable's off his game, a little bit low there. But this is just giving the Street Profits a little momentum back after losing at King of the Ring. And we saw them also in action last week. They, in that six-man tag with Big E, they got a win out of that too. So we're just, giving the Street Profits another victory under their belt in the tag team division here. And they continue to try to get back on track after losing that big match at King of the Ring. And a big angle here, as it is a 71 overall. We'll take that. Bayley also did not do well without a script. I don't like that because I think she, most segments we've had thus far, we haven't scripted her and she's done fine. So one of those random notes that hurts our rating a bit here, but it is Steve Austin, who's our Raw General Manager. He has decided what he's going to do with the recently vacated Raw Women's title, which was vacated by Rhea Ripley after she suffered the torn Achilles. Yes, I'm still upset about it. You all know. You know I'm still upset about it. She's out for a year, but Austin has decided that next week, Bayley and Sasha Banks will participate in separate matches, and the winners will go on to compete in a match for the Raw Women's title at SummerSlam. And, of course, Bayley's response in true Bayley form, that she thinks it's about time and that her and Sasha will have no problem giving the WWE fans another flawless singles match between the two whenever they both become victorious next week. So a little intrigue sets in there as it seems like Bayley has figured out what Steve Austin's plan is, and she's already gearing up for Bayley versus Sasha Banks at SummerSlam for the Raw Women's Championship, which would obviously be a huge match. So that's the setup, and we will find out next week what our SummerSlam match perhaps will be when it comes to the Raw Women's Championship that was just vacated. So Bayley seems to have a pretty good idea what it's going to look like. We'll see if she's right next week. But a nice segment here, and as we say, anytime we use Bayley and Sasha together, it always works out pretty well. So they will be in action next week, separate matches, and we'll see if they are going to be competing for the Raw Women's title at SummerSlam. And speaking of women's action on Raw, another win here for Liv Morgan as she defeats Natalya in 8 minutes. A 47, not great, but as we've said with Liv, we really, she lost a couple of those matches early on to Bayley and Sasha Banks. Really could not do a whole lot, and then we tried to give her a little momentum in that big tag team match at King of the Ring, teaming her with Rhea Ripley against Bayley and Sasha. But unfortunately, as we know, that match led to more bad than good. Even though it may have worked out somewhat for Liv, it was not good for Rhea Ripley. So, yeah, not ideal. So it is Liv Morgan getting the win over Natalya, even though Natalya is one half of our tag team champions. Liv Morgan gets the win here and grabs another win here to try to build up our Raw women's roster, which, as we know, has been a bit of a mess thus far with the injuries, Nikki Cross, maternity leave, all that stuff. So we're trying slowly but surely. I think we're headed on the right track with the Raw women's division, although it still stings from Rhea Ripley's injury. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Obviously, we have the Raw Women's title situation that Austin just announced, and Liv Morgan gets a win here to try to build up a little momentum for her. And look at this. Here we go. Our second of the series thus far. We get another 100 rating. This is our second one. The other 100 one came via Roman Reigns. It was at King of the Ring when we had Reigns in there with Foley in that big segment, but we get another 100 here. And that is fantastic news, as it is Edge entering Steve Austin's office. Austin, as we know, told Edge at King of the Ring that he had big plans for him. That was after Edge had informed him that he had a minor injury at a house show, but Edge was able to return pretty quickly. And so Austin wants Edge to be careful, though, because we know the situation with Randy Orton. And Edge remembers that everything with Orton started with him. If we go all the way back to the very first edition of Raw that we had in this series, where Orton is sort of circling the ring and then just leaves very mysteriously after Edge's match. That's what Edge is noting here, that everything really, this whole situation started with him. But they're going to move past that for now, even though Orton had that ominous exchange last week when he told Austin that the next time Austin sees him, everything will change. But for now, these two are trying to move past the whole Orton situation, not knowing what he could be, doing at this point. Austin reiterates, look, he's got big plans for Edge, and next week it will be Edge in a qualifying match for the Raw Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam. And yes, as you see there, a very specific situation when it comes to, we're talking about the Raw Money in the Bank match. I am going to actually do a Raw Money in the Bank match and a SmackDown Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam. I know some people used to prefer having both of those together, having two separate ones for each brand. I know some prefer, different, where you only have one for each brand. That maybe adds a little more intrigue too. I'm going to do two here, and there's going to be a reason behind it. And again, eventually, once everything plays out, you'll see why. But for right now, I like the idea of doing two because I think it's going to give us a little more options with how we're actually going to do a couple of storylines we have in the works. So we're actually going to do two Money in the Bank matches, Raw and SmackDown, at SummerSlam, and they're both going to be the men's matches, because the reason why we're not doing a women's Money in the Bank match, which honestly is just because of the roster right now, to where I think we're just going to hold off on that. And maybe, next year, if we're still doing the series, hopefully, return to that possibility. But we're going to do a Raw and SmackDown, two men's Money in the Bank matches at SummerSlam. That's the plan right now. Because we actually have some other things we're doing just for the women's only. Like we're doing the Mae Young Classic. We're doing those different things. So I think we're going to focus more on that when it comes to the women's division. But we have a couple things in mind for the men's division when it comes to the Money in the Bank briefcases. So we're going to do that at SummerSlam. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, which I say all that just to note that, hey, we just got another 100 rating. So we're going to take it. Clearly the Money in the Bank is a big sell because everyone loves it. A 100 here. Great stuff across the board. And, in the works, we also get a little automatically advancing the thing with Orton because Orton was mentioned here. So we're automatically advancing that as well. So great stuff. Great stuff from Austin and Edge. We go back down here to a 60 as it is Cesaro in action. Getting the win over Drew Gulak. Not really a lot to note here. As we know, the big thing going on with Cesaro, he's still pretty pissed off after the way he lost his match at King of the Ring in the semifinals, which came after the beatdown he took in the quarterfinals after he defeated Mustafa Ali, which they're on separate brands. So there's not really a whole lot Cesaro can do right now to get that payback. So it is basically just Cesaro going on a run here of trying to showcase his impressive skill and really taking his aggression out on others on Raw. And so Cesaro picks up another win here, and that's really the gist of this one for Cesaro. And we get a really good rating here, 82. Big E, another one here. He's talked about, look, Big E's racked up win after win, but to him it means nothing because all that matters, he will not stop until he is the world champion in WWE. We've heard this before from Big E. We had the great sort of interaction with Big E and Austin at King of the Ring, and Drew McIntyre was in there too. Just talking about, this guy is future champion material, and this was another nice promo from Big E, continuing to hype him up, and he will be someone that is Big E. He is very entertaining, and a very entertaining promo here to get an 82, and then that will lead into a match, which is Big E defeating Angel Garza. That goes 12 minutes, gets a 57. One of those matches where I wasn't expecting a huge rating out of this, just because, Angel Garza's overness is not that great, I think, overall. And then if we look at the dirt sheet, some of the things, we do this randomly, just look at these a bit, but I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It's just really just being unable to use the spinal impact moves, the only thing you take away from it. So still, we'll take it. It gives Big E another victory. He just keeps on winning. And as he mentioned in the promo, his ultimate goal is to become the world champion. So Big E, another victory here for him in our series. And we get a great promo here from AJ Styles, a 77. Of course, Styles, great. And this guy's been great on the mic. Like, we know his promos, they're always going to deliver. He's still angry about his King of the Ring finals loss. And just as he said last week, he's going to prove that he is not a loser. He's still got it. And this is one of those sort of typical AJ promos. He does not need to retire. All the people telling him he needs to retire, he's a loser, all this other stuff because he lost in the King of the Ring finals to Daniel Bryan. AJ will not take it. And he is going to prove all of his doubters wrong in his match against Ricochet. Let's see if he does just that. And this is a really great match here. 77. We will take this from these two. AJ Styles defeats Ricochet, goes 12 minutes, 29 seconds, hits the phenomenal forearm, and the storyline advances with the AJ wants to prove he's still got it. And, of course, Ricochet has continued to benefit from having that hot new move. This really delivered as the main event. I was a little interested to put this in the main event because we could have went with the Owens thing. I knew Owens and Ziggler would be really good, but it turns out this is going to wind up being the best match on our show. So it did deliver, and I think when you look at the two people involved, we built Ricochet up a little bit. I mean, obviously he didn't win in the King of the Ring quarterfinals. He qualified, but he lost that match to Seth Rollins. But we built Ricochet up a little bit more than, probably he's been used, I guess, in real WWE. But we built him up a little bit. And we do still have some things in store for Ricochet, even though he does take a loss in this match. But this was something that was really good. We wanted to aim this at Steal the Show, clearly. I mean, they get a 77. That's pretty well. We did also keep this open to make it, a pretty competitive match between these two, make it appear that they're on the same level with the open note. And so, yeah, I just think this was good. Like, I was hoping it was going to be a good match, and it turns out it did really well, adding the Steal the Show and all that stuff. So, great stuff here from AJ Styles and Ricochet. So, AJ Styles, apparently, he still got it at least for one more match because he comes out on top here against Ricochet. And that leads us into the final segment here, as we do have the segment that involves Steve Austin making it official. Bobby Lashley will defend the WWE title against Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam, and the contract signing is set for next week. So this is big, we know, because last week it was Bobby Lashley being the one to actually challenge Daniel Bryan. So the champion challenges the challenger, and, people found that a little bit odd. What is Lashley up to? Well, any way you look at it, doesn't really matter because they are going to fight for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And then after that, Austin had called out Lashley, pretty much told him, look, it's official. Then Daniel Bryan comes out. We get a little face-to-face. I'm not sure why Bryan's actually not added in here. I may have just actually not added him. I'm pretty sure I did, though, so I'm not sure. And so that big match is set. It will be Lashley and Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. So our Raw main event, at least, is set. And that I am really looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be great. But speaking of great, I thought the show was pretty great. 82, that is just stellar. And as we know, I think a big reason for that, we had some really hot segments. Really, I would say the majority of our segments were pretty hot here. It also obviously helped that we get the 100 with Austin putting Edge in the Money in Bank qualifier for next week. And we also get a lot out of the Kevin Owens situation. Really everything with Kevin Owens here delivered once again. So KO he's been really on it. A lot of the things he's done, like I want to say that the Kevin Owens quest for the gold, like ratings-wise, that was our best storyline, even with all the great stuff we've been doing with like Orton and Reigns and those kind of guys. Owens is still drawing just huge ratings here. So Kevin Owens has been pretty much gold for us thus far. I guess pun intended now that he actually has gold. But he's been really good, and we know Edge has as well. And so just a lot of different things here. Just going really well on Raw. At 82, that actually, I think... Is that our best show rating to this point? We'll check it out. I think that may have tied King of the Ring. But nonetheless, just a terrific Raw from a rating standpoint. And this is exactly where we want to be now. As if you go back to when the series started, we got some pretty not so great ratings early on. But we rebounded pretty quickly. And I think from here, like everything has started to go exactly as planned. And so, aside from the Rhea Ripley injury, ratings-wise, it's gone according to plan. Much better than it used to be. So we are moving in the right direction, and let's see if there's anything we need to tend to before we wrap up this particular episode. So let's look at what we have going here before we wrap up this video. Obviously, our Raw was excellent. Struck gold with this show. No surprise there. By the way, let's check real quick. I think, let's see, King of the Ring. Yeah, King of the Ring was also an 82. So this is tied for our best show thus far. But we've really, obviously been moving in the right direction. When we go back to the beginning, our very first Raw got a 64. Now, we've really improved it. And what will be I guess this was our 6th Raw, is that right? Yeah, so our 6th Raw, we get to an 82, so we really moved things in the right direction. By the way, our first SmackDown got a 62. Our most recent episode got 74. Hopefully the next one will be even better than that. So this ties for our best show in the series thus far. So that's good to know. Anything else here? Tito Santana. Who is Tito Santana doing here? Alex Hammerstone. He's someone that has actually been in one of our sections there, the creative wise. Like he's one of those hidden gems. So I don't know. We had Hammerstone on our short list here. So this is something that we may look at. Well, we may, I'll let you know in the next video if we decide to entertain this because Hammerstone does have a lot of good star quality. That's something that piqued my interest. Obviously, his stuff is really good when you just look at the skills. But he is under a contract with MLW. And so that is someone we may actually have our eye on. We'll find out in the next video. I may need to see what we can compete with here to see if we can get him in WWE. I think he's just got a lot of skills that we could use. So that is something that I'm going to leave in there. Steve Austin has an opinion. Ricochet. Poor Ricochet. Who was it last time on one of our videos? Was it Triple H? I don't remember who it was on the last one. I want to say maybe it was Triple H that said that Ricochet does not connect with the fans and we should write him off. Now Austin thinks the same thing. So poor Ricochet, man. He's getting thrown under the bus by everyone. Man, he is just, it's not been good for poor Ricochet. I think if we kind of look at all this different stuff, and it just seems like no one's a big fan of him, that he doesn't connect with the fans. I wonder if that's just because, his microphone, charisma, all that. His overness is not great. But I guess when we look at it overall, if we track his progress in terms of overness, it's not really going up any. But he hasn't really done anything, I think, at this point to warrant that. So I don't know. We're not writing Ricochet off yet, even though Triple H and Austin, the two-man power trip there, have decided that they want to tell us to write Ricochet off. We're not doing that just yet. We're getting rid of this because I don't want to entertain that. Drug test for Raw. What do we get for Raw? We got a 3.80. That's fine. Edge's contract ending. We already started our negotiations with Edge. I think that happened before I recorded this video, so we already have an offer in. We're not going to reject that, but we already have an offer in. Just know that on Edge. Certainly, we don't want to lose Edge. So we're putting in an offer there. Camille, who we signed to, let's just get rid of this Hammerstone thing. I won't forget about that. Camille has left NWA. As we know, we signed Camille to NXT, so now she's under deal with NXT. She left the NWA. So good to know on that. So she is officially with NXT, and she will be, hopefully, a big part of our women's division in the future. So that's that. Let's see, Ashton Smith, one remaining on the developmental. I think that's an NXT UK situation there, so we'll see if we need to address that. Same thing here with Aaliyah in NXT. We'll also make some decisions on that. And then we've got Kairi Sane. She's relocating to the Midwest, so that's something else of note. We're going to leave a couple of things in there for now. We always keep these as motivation in our email, so that's that. But that is this episode of Raw. We're really moving in the right direction now. That's for sure. We got some really good stuff going on. I think that'll only continue on SmackDown. So as always, be sure to subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. And as usual, I appreciate all the feedback. It seems like, people are really enjoying this, so that's good to know. And we have some really big plans in the works. Like, some of these storylines are really working out well thus far. But I will say that, it's only the start for some of these. There are some really fun storylines that we're building towards, which I think we're going to see some at Great American Bash. We already saw some at King of the Ring. But Great American Bash, we're going to have some fun stuff in store there. But SummerSlam, I'll just say, I got a lot of stuff planned for SummerSlam, and I hope everything, we talk about injuries, all that stuff. I think SummerSlam is going to be just fantastic. I hope everything stays together, connected to that point. Because no injuries, just no injuries, because we've got a lot of big things in the works for SummerSlam. So it's going to be exciting to continue the road to that pay-per-view. But before that, like I said, we've got Great American Bash, and we've got some pretty big stuff planned on that side too for SmackDown. So the next episode will be SmackDown as we look ahead. And it'll only be, really, we're only a couple weeks away now from Great American Bash. So for SmackDown, we've got, we're sprinting towards Great American Bash. So that will be the next episode. So be sure to subscribe and share all that. And the next episode will be our next edition of WWE SmackDown.